Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on the royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Camilla jealous after Catherine stuns world in glittering gown and Queen's $85 necklace at state dinner. A state meal at Buckingham Palace for the visiting Jordanian royal family drew a lot of attention across the globe, largely because of the appearance and presentation of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. People who watched and talked about her choice of jewelry focused on a historic diamond necklace that she borrowed from the royal collection and belonged to the late Queen Elizabeth II. Historians, royal analysts, and diplomatic observers all saw this unique choice of jewelry as a deliberate and important symbolic gesture. The evening served as a ceremonial occasion and strengthened the long-standing diplomatic ties between the UK and Jordan. It also showed how the princess's position in the contemporary British monarchy is changing as it becomes more important and visible. The state dinner was held for Crown Prince Hussein of Jordan and his wife, Princess Rajwa Al Hussein. This was a big deal for the two royal families who had been friends for a long time. For decades, the British and Jordanian royal families have stayed in touch via mutual respect, shared experiences in institutions, and some amount of strategic cooperation. The event was a public way to show off these long-lasting ties. State visits and reciprocal hospitality between monarchs are diplomatic weapons that help with nuanced communication. The dance of ritual and hospitality makes formal conversations and policy debates more interesting. The atmosphere at Buckingham Palace was meant to be opulent and full of ceremonial tradition. The ballroom's ornate ceilings and crystal chandeliers lit up tables set with the grand service of silver gilt. This historically crafted silverware has been preserved and used at state events, and its design and arrangement are based on established ceremonial protocols. The meticulously arranged flowers symbolized the national floral emblems and the visual languages of both kingdoms. The colors and selections were made with cultural sensitivities in mind and to create a cohesive look that symbolically united hosts and guests. The careful placement of flags, the order of admission, and the exact seating order all followed a system meant to show respect, hierarchy, and mutual recognition. To sum up, the combination of ritual art and spectacle is the setting in which state hospitality both shows and strengthens diplomatic ties. These events make visible the networks of alliance and respect that last beyond the formalities of treaty negotiations and bilateral talks. The Princess of Wales's arrival to the gathering of important people, government leaders, and visiting royalty drew a lot of attention. She wore a long-sleeved, silver-sequined gown by British designer Jenny Packham. This choice fits with her reputation for wearing smart diplomatic clothes that mix traditional and contemporary styles in a subtle way. Choosing a British designer is a common strategy in royal fashion politics. Supporting local artists shows support for the country's creative industries and gives the impression that culture is still alive and well. But it wasn't only the dress that had people talking. It was her choice of the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, a famous Cartier piece from Queen Elizabeth II's private collection, that made people think the most. The last Nizam of Hyderabad, who was the ruler of the former princely state in India, gave the necklace to Princess Elizabeth as a wedding present in 1947. It has more than 50 diamonds set in platinum and was made by Cartier. Some sources say it is worth more than $85 million, but most people agree that its historical and emotional value in the royal collection is priceless. The item's origin makes its metaphorical meaning stronger. During the early 1900s, the Nizam of Hyderabad's princely state was one of the richest in South Asia. He had close ties to the British crown and Indian princely families, and British royals exchanged gifts as part of a larger plan to build imperial relationships. The necklace represents not just the brightness of diamonds, but also the complex historical meanings of empire diplomacy and personal relationships. When someone wears something like this to a state event in modern London, it reflects many histories at once. It brings to mind the mid-20th century practice of giving gifts to members of the royal family. It reminds people of how a queen was often seen in public, and it makes people think about how objects that were once used in imperial networks are now used in ceremonial life in the 21st century. Wearing that particular stone conveyed several layers of meaning. At first, it was an obvious visual link to Queen Elizabeth II, whose 70-year reign gave the jewel its most important public origin. The necklace, which has been on display in public for many years and is closely associated with the late monarch, serves as both a beautiful piece of jewelry and a tangible symbol of continuity, connecting the legacy of the late monarch's long service to the institution's current and future forms. The choice was an homage, both planned and ceremonial, that showed the princess's respect for the late monarch's legacy and put her in the middle of the monarchy's ongoing story. The timing and place added to the symbolic meaning. Pictures of the lunch quickly spread via social media and news agencies throughout the globe, making sure that this planned gesture was seen by people all over the world. Commentators praised Catherine's calmness and the quiet strength she showed throughout the night. These comments helped her image as an important person who could represent the monarchy with grace on the world stage. The judgments went beyond just looks. They were part of a larger media ecosystem where public photos shape reputations and change how people think about the stability of institutions. One piece of jewelry represented a range of diplomatic and institutional signals about respect, lineage stability, and how the royal family uses well-planned symbols to express its ideas. To fully understand the necklace's importance, you need to put it in the context of the long history of its most famous previous owner, Queen Elizabeth II. She became queen in 1952 at the age of 25 and ruled for more than 70 years, making her the longest reigning monarch in British history. During her reign, there were many changes in politics, society, and technology. Her rise to power happened in a world that was changing after the war, at a time when the importance of constitutional monarchy was hotly debated. Over the years, she became a public figure who stood for stability, responsibility, and a kind of ritualistic dependability. For millions of people in the UK and the Commonwealth, she was a solid institutional presence at a time of rapid change. Her reign witnessed major changes such as the decolonization processes that changed how countries interacted with each other, the growth of political institutions, and the creation of mass electronic media, and later the Internet, which changed how people interacted with famous people. During her long reign, the Queen showed a commitment to tradition and the capacity to adapt to new situations. She oversaw the first televised coronation in 1953, which brought a centuries-old ceremony into the homes of millions and changed the way the monarchy was connected to the people. The event's broadcast showed a conscious decision to turn royal ceremonies into television shows. This was the first time that supposedly sacred institutional procedures were changed to get more people involved. Her Christmas broadcasts every year became an important part of the national rhythm. They were times of reflection when the monarch's voice brought people together and comforted them. The royal family slowly adopted new ways for the public to become involved under her leadership. These carefully planned changes were meant to maintain the institution's dignity while meeting the modern public's demand for more accessible royal figures. The Crown's effort to stay relevant depended on finding the right balance between being formal and being approachable. The Queen's role as a diplomat on the world stage was the longest and most powerful of its kind. During more than 100 years of official diplomacy, she helped with many state visits and went to more than 100 countries in return. As Britain's top ambassador, she was a symbolic leader who was able to build respectful relationships with future world leaders since she was fair and had been in the job for a long time. Her 2011 state visit to the Republic of Ireland was the first by a British monarch in a century, showing how much diplomatic power she had. People praised the visit for its ability to bring people together. By calmly and empathically talking about a difficult shared history, the Queen opened the door to a new chapter in Anglo-Irish relations at a time when symbolic gestures were very important in politics. These kinds of occurrences showed how ceremonial deeds, personal behavior, and symbolic gestures may lead to big changes in international relations, even if they happen slowly over time. The late Queen's legacy included her strong commitment to public service, in addition to her ceremonial and diplomatic duties. She supported almost 600 charities and groups that worked on healthcare, education, animal protection, and improving the town where she lived. The Queen raised public awareness of a number of problems via her support of organizations whose work changed the lives of many people in the UK and worldwide. Her unflinching devotion to duty from her accession to the end of her life established a moral and institutional norm for the monarchy. Various public rights and private actions tied to the crown are examined in light of her ongoing stewardship. In this perspective, lending items from the royal collection, such as personal jewels, may be seen not only as aesthetic choices, but as deliberate acts of inheritance, the transfer of responsibility, and the tangible continuation of a story characterized by service. The royal collection is not a personal collection in the usual sense. It is a collection of works of art and artifacts that is kept in trust for future kings, and by extension for the kingdom. When deciding whether to lend or show specific antiques, both their historical background and their present message are taken into account. When an item from that collection is selected to be shown to the public, it has a symbolic purpose. It shows an image that links the wearer to their predecessor and their own style to the legacy of the institution. The borrowing of the Nizam necklace for a major government function delivered mixed messages about responsibility and continuity. It showed that the late Queen's legacy is being kept alive and passed on in ways that honor the long-standing traditions of duty and ceremonial leadership. The relationship that developed between Queen Elizabeth II and Catherine Middleton over the course of more than 10 years is particularly significant for researchers studying the durability of the modern monarchy in the context of institutional continuity and mentorship. People who know the royal family well, and biographers have said that the connection between the former king and the then Duchess of Cambridge was one of quiet warmth, mutual respect, and a complicated, lasting mentorship. Many stories say that their relationship was founded on a true personal bond, not just a ceremonial duty. The Queen is said to have seen in Catherine the qualities that are needed for royal life: discretion, emotional strength, and a sense of duty. These are all traits that a future Queen consort should have. The couple moved from Anmer Hall in Norfolk to Kensington Palace in London, which brought them closer to Buckingham Palace and gave them more opportunities to run into each other. In the past, interactions were frequently quite formal. Now, however, these more regular connections have made it possible for professional encounters to happen alongside more personal ones. Reports say that the Queen and Catherine spent time together, sometimes in calm social situations, and sometimes via mutual advice over afternoon tea and in the private routines of royal life. But the participation also involved a lot of teaching. It is said that the Queen had an active role in getting Catherine ready for the duties that come with becoming Queen consort. These mentoring sessions were meant to be purposeful exchanges in which practical lessons were learned from the institutional expertise that had been built up during 70 years of rule. People say that the talks covered a lot of important skills for high royal position, such as how to handle diplomatic situations, how to entertain visiting heads of state, and how to be calm while people are watching you closely and sometimes intrusively. The Queen stressed how important it is to keep a reliable and consistent public image. She taught that everyone, whether they are a foreign dignitary or a palace employee, should be treated with the same respect. She also pointed out that small acts of honesty and dependability build public trust more than big displays of grandeur. Catherine, who was known for being attentive and insightful in conversation, got advice that gave her practical instruction and a direct link to the monarchy's institutional memory. This is a very useful resource for anybody who has to take on long-term symbolic and representational obligations. During these talks, the Queen taught Catherine more than just good manners. She also gave her a kind of stewardship that required her to keep a specific set of values alive. The mentorship showed that the monarchy's continued legitimacy depends in part on passing on learned habits from one generation to the next. The Queen recognized in Catherine not just the physical symbols of monarchy, such crowns, jewels, titles, and ceremonial obligations, but also the basic values of monarchy, like humility, perseverance, and a dedication to service. This connection was both personal and institutional. It was a private exchange of information that had public effects for the Crown's capacity to survive. Queen Elizabeth II died in September 2022, marking the formal start of King Charles III's reign. From the very beginning of his reign, the new king promised to keep things the same while also giving the royal family a new direction. The king sent this two-part message in his important address to the nation and the Commonwealth. The formal giving of the titles Prince and Princess of Wales to his eldest son, Prince William, and his wife Catherine, was a key part of the speech. The king's words were nonetheless important for both ceremonial and personal reasons. He stressed the pride and obligation that come with the title of Prince of Wales and publicly put Catherine next to his son as a partner in public service. The goal of giving out these titles was to boost public trust in the stability of the succession and show that responsibilities and attention were shifting from one generation to the next. The investiture of William as Prince of Wales is a long-standing constitutional tradition that officially recognizes his place in the line of succession. The title of Princess of Wales means a lot to Catherine because it is linked to Diana, Princess of Wales, who was very famous and involved in public life and left a lasting legacy. The king specifically mentioned Catherine when he gave her the title, which showed that he had a lot of faith in the couple's ability to take on a prominent and active public role. Catherine's work in public had earned her a powerful position in the group. The speech specifically mentioned the Duchy of Cornwall, which William and Catherine inherited when they became king and queen. The king said that he had been in charge of it for over 50 years. The Duchy of Cornwall is a private estate that was established in the 1400s. It helps the heir apparent with money. It gives the Prince of Wales money and helps with his public and charitable work. King Charles led the duchy in making decisions and investments that put sustainability and responsible management first. The delegation of these duties to William was not just a ceremonial change, it was a big change in daily responsibilities and long-term stewardship. The institutional transfer of titles and duties had two purposes. It confirmed the monarchy's official institutions and signaled a generational change. The king's public acknowledgement of Catherine's role in these responsibilities implicitly endorsed a leadership paradigm based on cooperation and shared goals. The statement suggested a plan to modernize the royal family, where senior members may work together to solve societal problems, shape public opinion, and bring attention to issues that are often overlooked. Before she was officially named Princess of Wales, Catherine had already had a big impact on her public life by concentrating on issues that are important for social welfare, such as early childhood development and mental health. In the past 10 years, she has put a lot of attention on the science and practice associated to the first 5 years of life. This is a time when developmental research is finding to be very important for setting up cognitive, emotional, and social paths. She aimed to enhance her understanding of how early environments, parental support, and access to services influence resilience and long-term outcomes by conducting comprehensive visits to nurseries, community centers, schools, and support networks, along with consultations with practitioners, scientists, and families. The princess has made a strong case many complicated problems that communities face, such drug addiction, homelessness, and ongoing mental health problems often start with bad experiences in early infancy. Her public engagements with stressed parents, neuroscientists, developmental psychologists, and persons affected by difficult childhoods have informed her conviction that targeted support during early years may profoundly affect life trajectories. There is a lot of agreement among early childhood specialists on the reasoning therapies that help form solid attachments, make parents more responsive, and improve early learning, may lower risks and improve the capacity to manage and succeed later in life. One of the most important royal advocacy activities in recent years was based on this commitment to children's mental health. Catherine co-founded Heads Together with Prince William and Prince Harry in 2017. The goal of this group was to fight stigma surrounding mental health and encourage open public discussion about psychological suffering. The goal of the campaign was to change the way people talk about mental health problems and getting help for them. Heads Together brought together important mental health groups to work together on a project to raise public awareness, make it easier for people to obtain help, and push for the best early intervention methods. The goal of the program was to bring together existing groups on a single public platform to share expertise, raise awareness, and remove barriers that make it hard to get help. Many people believe that the Heads Together campaign has led to a major change in how people in the UK think about mental health. It has made it easier for famous people to talk openly about their mental health and made conversations that were once taboo more common. The Royal Foundation, a major charitable organization that she and her husband Prince William started, has helped the princess's charity work become more focused and meaningful by focusing on partnerships. The foundation's objective is to find effective programs and organizations, bring together experts and stakeholders, and get resources together to help interventions grow over time. This method puts study evidence and long-term planning, first making sure that initiatives are not just well-known, but also based on habits that will last. The Royal Foundation's construction of a Center for Early Childhood is an example of this concentration. The center's goals are to bring together research, provide practical advice, and change the way people talk about the policy effects of early childhood science. The emphasis on systemic impact over transitory exposure signifies a dedication to cultivating enduring social transformation rather than ephemeral charity initiatives. The princess has tried to go beyond her ceremonial role as a patron and become a real evidence-based supporter of social policy programs that help families and kids. Her work has changed how people think about what a modern royal consort should do. Instead of only doing symbolic or altruistic things that were limited before, she has utilized her public platform to draw attention to places where smart policy and community practice may work together to make measurable benefits. This dedication to hard evidence-based work has made the princess's reputation as a person whose public image is founded on both compassion and knowledge even better. This combination of traits, calmness, devotion, and a desire to share her expertise has shaped how people see her both in the United States and throughout the world. The state supper for the Jordanian royals was a good example of soft power, which is the capacity to influence people via cultural relevance, attractiveness, and symbolic meaning instead than through formal authority or force. Political scientist Joseph Nye made the statement famous by pointing out that a country's culture, political beliefs, and institutions are just as important as its military or economic might when it comes to influencing the decisions of others. Ministers and diplomats spoke about policy and trade in official settings, but the Princess of Wales was an unofficial ambassador all night, and her sheer presence sent important messages. Her interaction-style wardrobe choices and gestures made up a way of communicating that showed respect, continuity, and understanding of other cultures without the need for a formal speech. People who saw her throughout the occasion said she was calm, focused, and really interested. She was able to speak to people in a personable and relaxed way, even though the ceremony was official. Royal historians and analysts say that this form of influence, which comes from regular low-key public appearances, doesn't depend on legal or political power. Instead, it comes from being able to represent the values of an organization, show empathy via deeds, and be a comfortable point of cultural continuity. The princess chose a British designer for her gown as a discreet diplomatic gesture to show respect for British workmanship. The gown's simple shape reflected the cultural and ceremonial importance of an occasion attended by guests from a different culture. Putting on the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace was the most important symbolic act of the night. Getting something closely connected to Queen Elizabeth II made a clear and emotional link between the monarchy's long and storied past and its future. The necklace was a constant reminder of institutional memory, representing stability, tenacity, and careful protection of tradition. This symbolism is significant because it works in ways other than formal words. It lets the institution communicate ideals like continuity, respect for predecessors, and dedication to public service via visual and interpersonal signals, just as well as through official policy statements. In diplomatic hospitality, where the balance between grandeur and intimacy is delicate, these nonverbal cues may be especially significant. They communicate stories about who a country chooses to honor, what history it acknowledges, and whose personas it showcases to the global community. This kind of influence is part of a bigger trend in modern royal leadership, a move away from flashy displays and toward a more subtle, resonance-based way of getting people involved. In today's political and cultural climate, which is sometimes full of extreme exaggeration and contentious speech, the princess's calm assurance and careful moderation are extremely convincing. Her leadership style focuses on stability and empathy. This shows that you may gain influence by acting consistently, using meaningful symbols, and building real connections with others rather than by trying to be the most popular person in the room. In short, she has a kind of soft power that is both subtle and strong. It comes from her experience and the trust she has built with others, not just from showing off. It is evident that these symbolic actions do not operate in a political vacuum. The media and social networks interpret, amplify, and even question these gestures. For every analyst who saw the necklace as an elegant emblem of continuity, there were contrasting opinions that scrutinized its colonial-era roots and the appropriateness of such richness in a modern, socially diverse nation. These talks add to the larger public conversation on the monarchy's place in modern Britain, including its capacity to justify privilege while respecting democratic values, its connection to Britain's imperial history, and its ability to change with changing public expectations. The palace carefully plans these events to counter such charges by focusing on the Crown's charitable work, the personal stories of service related to its members, and the stabilizing role that monarchy may play in public life. The state dinner worked on a lot of levels. It seemed like a celebration of the friendship between the UK and Jordan, but according to the people who took part, it also became a symbol of how modern monarchy shows its lasting importance. It showed how the institution tries to stay important in public life, with carefully planned ceremonial grandeur, symbolic actions that reference the institution's history, and more senior royals being seen in public who combine tradition with important civic work. The Princess of Wales's presence at the event was planned. It was a deliberate part of this strategy. Her appearance and behavior showed that she is not just a part of the royal story, but also a key player who is shaping the next chapter. She is a living link between a cherished past and a new future. By taking that role on a stage as public and ceremonially important as Buckingham Palace, she showed both allegiance to a past that was given to her and a desire to carry on its core qualities of stability, compassion, and a commitment to public service into the next era. Her support for mental health and early childhood development, her work with the Royal Foundation on strategic philanthropic projects, and the way she handled ceremonial duties all show a contemporary view of consortship that is both symbolic and useful. The careful acquisition of a historic diamond was part of a larger communication plan. It linked the visual language of monarchy pageantry, hereditary artifacts, and ceremonial clothing to a public involvement effort to turn inherited power into modern social benefits. As institutions must continually substantiate their social purpose, the monarchy's ability to use its resources, material, symbolic, and relational, in ways that distinctly advance public goods will be essential for its enduring legitimacy. The state dinner for the Jordanian royal visitors was not only a beautiful occasion, it also showed how the contemporary monarchy uses history symbols and personal representation to strengthen its position in both national and international circles. Wearing a diamond strongly associated with Queen Elizabeth II was a clear message of continuity and respect. The princess's many philanthropic works showed that she was determined to balance ceremonial dignity with genuine participation in social causes. When you think about how important that night was, you can see that it had many meanings. The palace walls, the silver gilt service, and the flower arrangements made up the physical setting. The presence of visiting royals and ministers set the diplomatic tone, and the Princess of Wales's personal choices made the story link between the past and the future. In a unique instance, the monarchy conveyed a narrative designed to preserve its significance not via mere nostalgia, but by combining the stabilizing force of inherited tradition with a proactive commitment to addressing contemporary difficulties. That night, the Princess of Wales represented a mix of institutional memories that guided public service and modern issues that made ceremonial obligations more useful and based on fact. It is still unclear how long popular support from these kinds of symbolic acts will last. However, the Buckingham Palace event clearly showed how carefully the modern monarchy manages its public image to tell a story of continuity, compassion, and civic duty. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share it.